First post here, but I've been lurking since my first D-Day, 17th of April, 2021, only recently becoming active. A bit more than a year has gone by, and through lots of self-reflection and therapy, I finally built the courage to walk away from my 38M wife 36F. This is a very weird feeling, one I really don't know how to fully describe. I'm optimistic and scared, calm and anxious, happy and sad. My Fitbit says my heart rate is around 80 BPM, which is about 10 beats higher than usual. So I decided to write this here as a reminder to myself not to give in. I thought making a list of all the crappy things I've had to deal with over the 13 years we've been together, married for almost 8, might keep me on track to follow through with the divorce if I get weak in the future at any point. So, here's a list of all the reasons I'm leaving for my future self. She is an alcoholic. She gets obnoxious, verbally abusive, and violent when she drinks. She cheated on you with an employee that reports to her at work. They had sex at work during working hours, not to mention the hotels they booked. She made secret plans to meet up with an ex-boyfriend using her work cell phone before you stumbled onto the text messages. After forgiving her for cheating on you, you discovered she had booked a hotel in August 2021 during a night you were away. Once confronted, she denied and gaslit you. A week after you left the house to stay with family, she finally admitted to sleeping with the same coworker again. The one time she agreed to put a tracker on her phone, you discovered she had left the phone at her friend's house and had her friend text you pretending to be her. She claims she was at Target and simply forgot her phone. She came home drunk in the middle of the day once, saying she was at the gym. After finally agreeing to start a new job and put her AP out of your lives by blocking him on her phone and email, you discovered she was hiding a second cell phone and communicating with him through that device instead. On a night she claimed she wanted a night to herself, she secretly met up with her AP for dinner, claiming she just wanted closure. The same night, she stayed at a hotel. Her best friend, who previously coerced her into $5,000 worth of debt and has cheated on her own husband with many partners, has been assisting your wife in all her affair and will continue to do so. Luckily you have no kids since she aborted your child 5 years ago. You can sell the house, make your money and move on without any strings attached. Don't believe her when she says she will change. She has said this many times and she never will. She has only gotten smarter in trying to hide her crappy behavior. Get out. Build your own life the way you want it. Just typing all that out makes me question why I stayed as long as I have. Edit. Thank you so much everyone for the outpouring of support. Today is kind of a crazy day as she is being served while at work. I have the day off and I am moving my stuff out at the same time. So while I'd love to respond to everyone, I am on a tight schedule today. Some frequent questions I have been receiving in chat/comment/messages. No, she does not know she is being served today, but 2 days ago I told her I was pursuing divorce and wanted her respect. She agreed, albeit after love bombing me and promising she would make changes. I shot down all her attempts. I did not want to report her to HR, and I would advise against anyone else doing so. If I pursued divorce and she lost her job, I would have been on the hook for alimony. We both make roughly the same annually, so realistically she shouldn't be receiving anything from me. Pasting a comment I left to someone in the comments section to explain why I did not leave after so much. It's not easy to walk away after you've built so much with one person. A lot of this really only came about in the last year and a half, really. She had a drinking problem, but was always self-aware of her issues and worked hard to overcome everything. She went a long time without touching alcohol. She was sweet, kind, and nurturing for years, and it felt great to spend my time with someone like that. Once the affair started she seemed to lean into all her negative behavior, and I just kept giving her chance after chance, and now she's used up all of her chances. The house is in both of our names. I do all the upkeep on the property. I intend on staying in the house to facilitate its sale since she does close to nothing with the house. If she chooses to stay, legally I cannot kick her out, so going full no contact, while ideal, might be tough to do. I am moving my stuff to my father's house today so I can bail and stay there if all fails. Update 1. Thank you so much for the encouragement after my last post detailing the reasons why I finally decided to leave my wife and serve her with divorce papers. It feels good to get over that initial hump, but I know the road ahead is still lengthy and will be filled with many challenges. Ultimately, despite all the rough spots that occurred this past weekend, I'm feeling empowered that I am taking control of my life again. So, here is what has transpired since Friday. She comes home from work and visibly upset and unstable, but trying her best to pretend that nothing happened. She denied ever being served the papers, and took note of things of mine that were missing, and noted the kitty carrier out. She demanded I put everything back, put the kitty carrier away, that she was going out with a friend and that I had better be home when she gets home. After she left, I packed up the car and went to my father's house. I did not feel safe with her the way she was acting. The Ring doorbell captured her returning home a little after 10 p.m. Then around 11:30 p.m. it captured her again in one of the strangest and most unsettling ways I have ever seen my wife behave. She walked out the front door and stood in the driveway for a moment, then began dancing and singing the chorus of The Boy Is Mine by Brandy and Monica. After singing the chorus of the song and a couple more verses, she walked back up the front stoop and tried to tear the Ring doorbell out, but she was unsuccessful and walked back into the house. She was obviously drunk, and I was very satisfied with my decision to leave the house and stay at my father's. I have saved the video and sent it to my attorney. On Saturday morning, her friend picked her up at 5 a.m. as they had plans for a day trip to shop at the outlets. I went home and investigated the house. Luckily everything seemed all right and nothing was damaged by her. She came home in the early evening and still pretended that everything was all right and she was never served any papers. I ignored her and stayed to myself on the couch. Eventually she came and sat down, admitted to receiving the papers, then unleashed a number of different tactics on me to get me to drop the divorce. She threatened, mocked, begged, negotiated, pleaded, love-bombed and guilted me over the course of 2 to 3 hours discussing everything. I held firm, laid out my case that I was unhappy and wanted out, that I was tired of being abused by her, lied to, and emotionally tortured. Surprisingly, she admitted to enjoying treating me the way she has, as every time I stayed with her and endured, it evidently showed her how much I loved her. I quickly pointed out the dysfunction in that, which she brushed off as being just the way she is and asserting that she will never sign any divorce papers. Things have calmed down. There's obvious tension in the house still, but we are coexisting and keeping things cordial. My attorney has advised that she has seen this plenty of times in her years of being a divorce attorney, and once all her tactics fail and she realizes that the divorce is not going to stop, she will turn to rage and go on the attack, so I'm preparing for that next. This is certainly the start of a very long battle, I'm sure. But I keep thinking of the goal at the end of all this, me, on my own and self-sufficient in my own place, not being tormented any longer. I absolutely cannot wait for that day. Update 2. Many have been reaching out to me asking for an update, so I thought I could give the news on events that have transpired, and maybe some of my own personal reflections on everything. Thankfully, things have calmed down. I took the advice of everyone here, my therapist, and my attorney, and I left the house. I was hopeful we could coexist and I can stay in my own home, but there was a night where things escalated and I knew it wouldn't be possible to stay under the same roof as her. I was staying in the guest bedroom at the time. One night she had said something nasty, I forget what. Later on she knocked on my door lightly. I answered to find her in tears as she offered an apology for her actions. I thanked her and asked that she leave me be. After closing the door she unleashed a fury of vulgarities at me on the other side of the door. Then went downstairs and continued her tirade. Effing idiot. I heard over and over, among many heinous insults to me and my family. Luckily there was no sign of impending violence, but I sat in the room above her as she continued cursing and yelling, hoping she would stop. She eventually did. That night I slept with the door barricaded and made the decision to leave the next day. Once she left for work the next day I began packing the rest of my things. Luckily I work from home, so I had time before work and during my lunch break to pack up my car. After work was done I jumped in my car with one of the cats and went to my father's where I have been since. It's peaceful here. The house is not occupied most of the time, and many of the rooms were used more for storage. Cleaning out one of the bedrooms upstairs and buying new furniture has been a fun project. The room I am now staying in is quite cozy. For as long as I have been married I have always wanted a gaming room, and that's what I've been working on turning this room into. I even bought myself a new bed. It's one of those adjustable bases and even has a built-in massage function. I may have gone a little overboard, but I wanted to be comfortable and excited about where I am living. As of typing this up, I can confirm I'm thrilled to be here. I even got my email confirmation for my Steam Deck, so that was a nice added bonus from Valve. It's as if they knew I was going through a tough time and needed something fun. There has been some communication between us, but very little. Since my wife does not clean or really know how to take care of the house, I have been visiting on weekends to check on things, and grab any other items I may have left behind. Her tone has definitely changed. She has been begging me to call off the divorce, taking ownership of all things wrong with the marriage, offering to have the open policy I have been asking her for, and swearing that she called everything off with the guy she had an affair with. I'm not buying it. I know this version of my wife as I have seen it many times. Once the dust settles she will revert back to her old, toxic habits. For now it's nice to hear directly from the source of my heartache that she is actually claiming responsibility for everything she has done, even if that gesture is a facade and short-lived. She is a person with many personal issues that I have taken an active role in assisting with. It's rather astonishing to sit back now and reflect on all the things I have helped her with throughout the years, all the ups and downs. I saw her last Sunday when I stopped at the house. The place is a mess, with empty bottles of wine scattered around. After I arrived at the house she went into the bathroom to throw up, quite loudly. She came out and said she was hungover from drinking the night before. I maintained the Grey Rock method and didn't engage in any way, which only fueled her sorrow further. You don't even care, she said a few times to me while holding back tears, clearly trying to bait me. She is scrambling to suck me back to being a manipulated toy to play with, and it isn't working. It makes me sad to see her like this, but I also lost my motivation to help her, mainly because I realized that there is nothing I can do for her anymore. Coming to terms with that really does feel refreshing. Sometimes I wonder why I stayed for as long as I did, but I'm content with how things have unfolded and with my decisions. I first found out she was cheating on me in April 2021. Then found out she cheated again in August that same year. For many that would have been enough in itself, but I still stayed. As my therapist said to me, a year ago I wasn't ready to walk away. I am now. I needed to see this through and confirm that the problem was not me, the problem is entirely her and there is nothing I can do about it. My options are to endure perpetual heartbreak, or leave. I chose to leave. A year ago I did not realize those were the only cards on the table. I thought I could change myself and make the marriage work. I was wrong. My own family tried to coach me, but I needed to realize it myself without being told. That's the important part of leaving a spouse. It has to be your own decision, not someone else's. This is my decision. I am owning it, and I am improving my life little by little. There's a profound reward in learning a vital lesson in life. This hard-won knowledge is precious to personal development. I endured the hollow charade of her crap because I had to learn on my own. I'm not in any way ashamed to admit I stayed throughout all the issues. I'm incredibly proud of myself for finally coming to terms with everything and taking the hard steps to move on with my life. And I'm pursuing all the things I had put off for a long time. I'm making a nice gaming room for myself, exercising a whole heck of a lot. A few years ago I wrote a book but never pursued being published. I had another book I wanted to write, and I'm pleased to say that I have begun writing it. All these things I had put aside for years and made my marriage a priority. It's so incredibly refreshing to finally indulge in my own interests. I'm moving on, improving myself, and she is drinking herself into misery. I'm focusing on me, and it feels so great. My father's house has a lot of meaning to my family. Many, many memories here. My grandfather came here from Portugal when he was young and purchased the property. He grew up in Portugal living off the land and growing his own food. If he didn't do that, he didn't eat. So when he came here, he purchased a large piece of land, built a house, built a barn in the backyard, planted crops and an orchard. This house represented hope for a brighter future. He had horses, cows, goats, chickens. The whole deal. As my father and his siblings grew up, the land became less populated by livestock, and more a representation of family and freedom. My uncles began rock bands and converted the horse stables in the barn to practicing spaces for their music. They played among whatever animals were left at the time. When I was born, my father brought me here on the weekends. He and my mother divorced when I was only a few months old, but remained cordial. Weekends meant being free on this land with my dad. It was paradise for a child like me. No rules, lots of land to explore and play on, and a crappy father who made me feel so loved and free. He bought me a dirt bike when I was 8 or 9 years old. I used to ride that bike all over the property, around the barn, on the front lawn. My grandmother used to complain that I was tearing up the grass. She'd come outside as I drove by the front of the house and yell at me to slow down, but I'd scoff at her and ride faster around the house and through the orchard. There were a few nights here when my father would open the window to his upstairs bedroom and climb out on the roof. He'd coax me out with him and we'd lay on our backs in the middle of the night, engulfed in darkness while staring up at the stars together, talking about traveling the universe and whether there is life somewhere out there. Last night I snuck out through that same window, sat on the roof in my pajamas, looked up at the stars and cried while pondering life. I cried partly due to sadness, but mostly because I felt that freedom and hope I once had when I was a kid in this house. Back then I was always so incredibly eager for what would come from life. I looked forward to growing up, being a good person and living an honest, fulfilling life. Those feelings vanished for a long time, but they are slowly emerging from beneath the rubble of a failed marriage. There's hope for a brighter future, and I can't wait to see what comes next. Update 3, there were red flags from the start of us dating. After a month or two I realized she had an issue with alcohol. She wasn't plastered drunk 24/7, but she would feel compelled to drink at very random times, and she was always a very obnoxious drunk. She had some aggressive incidents, but once everything was over she would reflect on everything and admit her faults. She was never shy to admit she had an issue, which prompted me to believe she could change. And she did a few times. There were periods where she would be alcohol-free for a year or two, then swear that she could handle it again and begin drinking, and eventually she'd be sneaking alcohol around with her and drinking in the middle of the day again. I forget where I heard this before, but there's a quote that always stood out to me. Love is not solely celebrating the strengths of your partner, but also tolerating their weaknesses. Of course there's a limit to how much weakness one should truly withstand, but I saw her alcohol issues as something I wanted to help her through. When alcohol wasn't at play, things with her really were beautiful. I believed she wanted to be a good person and overcome her issues. Then she met this guy at work and started sleeping with him. Up until then, she was clean for 2 years and had really put her life together nicely. Once she began cheating, everything changed. She embraced all the destructive impulses she had. Like alcohol, I thought she could overcome everything. Maybe she can, But I'm not going to wait around anymore. I'm too exhausted to try anymore. I'm not thinking about dating right now, but after all this is over and I feel ready to, I may try dating again, and if I do, I think I'll avoid alcoholics. That'll be my own individual preference. I'm curious to hear if anyone tracked down the spouse/significant other of the AP and notified them of the infidelity you discovered and how that turned out for you if you did. I have been debating for quite some going through with this, but I've gotten mixed responses from professionals. When my wife and I were trying to reconcile, I brought this up during couples therapy and our therapist vehemently shot this down, saying it was not my place to do such a thing, and that karma would eventually catch up with AP. Truthfully, when I heard this I kind of rolled my eyes since I don't really believe in karma, and if karma was legitimate, that would suggest I deserved being cheated on and experiencing this heartbreak. I had also called a private investigator to obtain the contact info of this person, but the PI also refused, saying that these types of actions never end well and I could be sued for harassment, and he, the PI, could also be liable and pulled into a lawsuit. My current therapist gave me a different outlook, saying that if this was important to me then I should go through with it, but noted it may complicate things for my divorce and that it might be better to wait until after the divorce is finalized. My heart goes out to this poor woman, completely oblivious to the fact that her husband has been cheating on her, and in my view she has every right to know. I try to think of myself and what I would want if the shoes were flipped, if my wife was cheating and I had no idea. I would absolutely want someone to tell me. Does anyone have any experience with this or any insight? Update 4. I look at myself now and often compare myself to who I was on my first D-Day in April, 2021. I still remember the day vividly and how I felt. I had discovered a small bag I had never seen before and curiously thought, where did this come from? I opened it up and my world shattered. Inside was a collection of post-it notes AP had given to my wife at work. Have a good night, beautiful. We'll think of you all day. Hey, you look beautiful today. Good morning, beautiful. There were about 10 to 15 post-its in the bag, most with some variation of calling my wife beautiful. I stood in our kitchen breakfast nook holding the evidence of my wife's affair in my hands with a pounding in my chest from an overloaded heart that was beating wildly like a frenzied nightclub that had just been set ablaze. I remember the moment so vividly. Everything down to the texture of the notes and how they felt on my fingertips. It's all still fresh and distinct over 2 years afterwards. I remember my mind racing, desperately trying to make sense of what I was looking at, looking for some excuse to explain it all away. Maybe these are from a female coworker. Women sometimes talk like this to each other. Right? I thought. It's sometimes tough for me to relive that defining and earth-shattering moment. Sometimes I think about it and find myself getting angry. But oddly enough, that day triggered a dramatic shift in my life. I'm still piecing things together and rebuilding, but I look at who I am today compared to who I was 2+ years ago and the two people are completely different from each other. I didn't like who I was then, but I like who I am now. I can't believe how far I've come. Update 3. Every so often I receive a message from someone here asking for an update. The last time I posted any meaningful update was almost a year ago, which can be found in my post history. My divorce is almost finalized. Both me and my soon-to-be ex-wife have signed all the necessary papers. The papers have been filed with the court and we are simply awaiting a judge to approve everything. The house has been officially sold as of last week. We are essentially finished. There's nothing more for us to do but wait for a judge to approve the divorce. The path getting to this point was quite tumultuous. My soon-to-be ex-wife behaved like a screaming child that I had to drag through the whole process and force her to finally agree to the proposed stipulation of settlement agreement and to sell the house. But even as she began cooperating with the process, I would still receive those drunk texts begging me to go back to her, and when I refused she would turn to rage before eventually returning to the love bomb approach to win me back. Her mood would shift quite dramatically. In a span of 1 week, she went from texting me "F you, I'm better than you, I can't wait to be divorced from you," to later handwriting me a letter, taking a picture of that letter and texting it to me where she referred to me as a great man and the husband of her dreams. But I did not waver. I stood up to my abuser and told her I was not going to allow myself to be treated like this anymore. And it feels damn good to say I did that. There's a recurring thought I have had in this whole process. I often say to myself, behave in a way that you can be proud of in the future. I wanted to look back at this time and be able to say that I did the right thing, despite that being so very hard to do at times, and despite having every reason to be angry or frustrated. I think about who I want to be as a person on this earth, and I act and make decisions that align with that vision. I want to be someone that upholds integrity and respect for others regardless of their behavior, as destructive as it may be at times. This does not mean outright ignoring such behavior, but addressing it in a productive way and enforcing boundaries. My therapist quoted Hamlet to me once, and it stood out. It's a line I had heard before but never fully dissected it. To thine own self be true. Our response to hardship sets a foundation for who we eventually become as people later in life. My soon-to-be ex-wife did a horrible thing, but I do not see her as a horrible person. As someone I shared many happy moments over many years with, I cannot type this with any hatred in my heart or wish ill will on her. I still love her, always will, and wish her all the happiness in the world. She has many struggles, and I hope she finds a way to overcome them. We left things very peacefully between us. After closing on the house, we had lunch together and spoke candidly. We cried together, told each other we loved one another and wished the other well. For me, it was such a beautiful way to say goodbye. I recall the moment in the parking lot when we hugged, crying as we held each other. I thanked her for being my wife and for giving me so many happy times before the affair. She apologized for her actions and for failing the marriage. We started walking away, holding on to each for as long as possible until the distance was too much and we had to let go. I know most that experienced betrayal would not have done that, but for me it was one of the most beautiful moments of my life. It was a perfect way to say goodbye to each other, with mutual respect, love, and overall on good terms. As for me, I have been quite busy since deciding to leave. I dropped about 50 pounds, although I put 10 back on since my doctor told me I was a tad too skinny. I had previously been a bit on the heavy side many years ago, so overall I've lost about 90 pounds unfortunately. I now have some excess skin on my belly that I'm looking into getting surgically removed. But I still exercise regularly. I recently ran my first race and have a 10K coming up later in the September. I joined a kickball league and made lots of new friends through the organization that runs it. We have become close and participate in trivia nights together here and there outside of kickball. I've increased my social circle and even made a close friend through this subreddit that I speak with every day, and it feels so great to be putting myself out there and enjoying new experiences. I have not started dating though, and I'm in no rush for that. I'm not sure when that will come, but I know it will at some point. Truthfully, I'm a bit frightened to start dating, but at the same time I'm kind of looking forward to it. For the moment though, I'm still rebuilding my life the way I want it, and I don't want anything to interfere with my goals. Overall, I'm very happy to report back that I'm doing well, and it's because I've put in the hard work to try and be the best version of myself that I've ever been. There are still days where I struggle and feel angry or as though I am grieving, but they are becoming less frequent. If I had stayed, every day would be like that. Leaving was my only option to save myself from becoming a version of myself I never wanted to be. I do hope that this post resonates with those still struggling to move on. I'm always happy to speak with anyone and offer my encouraging insight for those now faced with navigating infidelity. So if you'd like to connect with me, please feel free to shoot me a DM. I will end this post here as it is already quite long, but one last thing, thank you to everyone who had reached out to me last year or even recently to offer their own advice, or just to check in. This community is absolutely wonderful and served as a valuable resource for me during those dark days. Cheers to a better life.